Hi, my name is Grace Labens, and my husband Greg had glioblastoma. And I thought I could share with you our story and some of the things that we found helped us function on our daily life. In August of 2019, we started noticing Greg had some struggles walking with it. We thought it was a foot issue, and it turned out after ruling that out, he had an MRI around September 5th of that year, and the MRI showed two little lesions, half a centimeter each, on the brainstem, and they really didn't know what it was. And that led to having a spinal tap, a lot of blood work, and they wanted to just wait and see what was going to happen with it. And they monitored it, and they ended up thinking maybe it's rheumatoid arthritis, or maybe it's just some other type of inflammation, or MS. They were really considering MS. So they tried to treat it with steroids, IV, really strong steroids, in October, and the symptoms did get a little better. He started having left arm weakness and peripheral vision issues by then. And then in November, we did really kick back at it with the steroids. 5 days of Solumedrol, it's an IV solution, and it really did help his symptoms quite a bit. But as soon as that wore off, the symptoms came back again, his limping and his weakness in his arm. And so December 17th, he had another MRI, and this would have been the third one, and it showed that that it looked more like cancer. It lit up white on imaging, whereas before it really was staying kind of gray. And then they knew they really needed to do a biopsy to confirm GBM. We didn't want to because it was on the brainstem, and it's such a risky area to go into, but we had no choice. So the day after Christmas, did the biopsy, 10% chance of it resulting in a brain bleed, and it did. And so he was in ICU for 3 days, almost didn't make it. And then after he pulled through that, had a couple days of a regular room. And then on New Year's Eve, we transferred him to a rehab facility, and he stayed there 11 days. And in that facility, he had to learn how to walk again, speak, chew, swallow without choking. He made amazing strides in that rehab facility. It was a fabulous place. We had very, very good therapists working with him. Even cognitive things with the speech therapist on thinking, processing. And he worked hard, and he made great strides. And then we did the standard of care then, February into March, with chemo and radiation. He had Timidar. And April 12th, we started Optune, and he wore an Optune device on his head, averaging 18 hours a day. So he maybe would go 2.5 days without taking anything off, hooked up to the battery. And then he would give his head like 6-hour break before we'd shave his head and do it all again. And he wore Optune for 108 days. And he was really dedicated to that. It was a pain, but it was worth it if we felt like it was keeping the tumors small. And so throughout, he actually had an improved MRI in April. And then in June, that MRI showed stability. And so we were really happy for that, because by June, he was walking 3,000 steps a day on his own with just a cane around the living room. And he was doing pretty good. The end of July, he started to have some more difficulties, and he wasn't able to keep up with the Timidar. He always struggled with platelets. And so the first week or so of August, it really hit him, and he got obstructive hydrocephalus, and so basically swelling on the brain. And we had the option of having a shunt put in, which we did. And he had that surgery August 11th. It really did help him alleviate any pressure, and I'm glad we did it. They wanted to change his chemo to Lumistine, and so we agreed, and that did not work well for him. It took his platelets down to 5, and I didn't know platelets could go that low, and it just took too long for him to bounce back from it. And he was able to do that once or twice before we decided it's just too hard on him. And so in September, they kind of told us there's probably shouldn't do any more chemo. And in October, he had 2 rounds of Avastin. And those gave him a couple good weekends too, where he felt good and could talk a little bit more, because speech was really becoming difficult. And then, but eventually it was just too difficult for him to go and get him there for the treatments. We couldn't get him there. And so he didn't want to go anymore. So November 1st, he started hospice, and he passed on the 19th of November. And some of the things that really helped us in our daily life when we were going through some of the roughest times, one of the things we did, we recorded his walking. And especially when he was having some improvements, for me to show him a little video to say, oh, look, here's what you did a week ago. And, you know, look, you could do your steps better today. That really encouraged him, and it would just change his whole attitude. And he needed that, because when he was worse, he knew he was worse. He would fall or trip or whatever, but he needed to know when there were some good things happening. He had, like I said, he basically had a stroke with that brain bleed. So he had left-sided weakness and vision in his peripheral vision. So he didn't drive from October of 2019. That was the last time he drove. And which was hard for him because he drove for a living too. And so he really did miss that. But another thing that we really liked was the quad cane. It's just, I should have had one here to show you, but you can Google it. It's just a cane that has, the base of it is like a square, and it has 4 feet on it, so it stands up on its own. But that really gave him some extra stability when he was needing some assistance with walking. A slider board is something that was a lifesaver for me. It's just, you can get them on Amazon for $38, and his PT gal recommended that to us. And it's just a big piece of wood, about 2.5 feet wide by 6 feet, not feet, 6 inches. And it's like a really smooth piece of wood with tapered edges and a little hole where you can put your hands in. And I use that to get him, to help him move, like slide from the bed to the wheelchair. Once we had a wheelchair that had an arm that came off. And then I'd wheel him into the living room here, and then I would use that slider board to get him from the wheelchair into his recliner. And this way I didn't have to pick him all the way up and turn to get him back down. I could move him, transfer him a little, you know, a little safer for him. And he was able to help on one side with his own arm, grab and slide himself over. And so that turned out to be a really good thing. That bought me more time, where I was able to care for him without having any help, because I could use that then. The urinal. He got to the point when he could still get up on his own. He would walk with a walker to the bathroom. So we put a flashlight right on the walker so he could see where he was going at night. I put lights in the bathroom, night lights that lit up the way, little stick-on lights that went on the walls that would light the path, so that when he was getting up on his own still, he could do it safely, because he tripped a couple times. Eventually, he got to where he didn't have the capacity to get up on his own, and so we had a urinal for the next to the bed. But since he only had one working hand, it was very difficult for him. So he really couldn't hardly do that by himself. He did a few times, but it didn't always work out well. So he would wake me up, which was fine, but something with his bladder was going on, and he woke up every other hour. I mean, he at midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., you know, he would tap me, gotta pee. And so neither one of us was getting any sleep. And we did that for about a month and a half. And finally I read on the We Are the Wives of GBM page, someone suggested condom catheters. I did not know what that was, and I Googled it, and I thought, well, let's try it. And that was a game changer too, because of having that, I was able to get like 3 or 4 hours at a time sleep instead of just, 1.5 or 2. And they were very, very helpful. And so if you don't know what those are, you might want to look into that. And we did have to try different sizes to find something that worked for us, or would stay on and not come off. But that was very helpful. We did have some handrails put in. We had a friend of ours does construction, so he installed real ones we have a walk-in shower, and he installed those on 2 sides and in the bathroom on 2 sides. But the other bathroom, there's not a wall around the toilet. So I just bought off of Amazon. It's just it's kind of flimsy, but it worked for him. And it's just a little thing you can attach to your, the stool in the back, so that he can have handrails on either side. And those were also very helpful. My daughter bought me a year of Shipt Shopper so that I could order groceries and not have to go to the grocery store. And that's what I did all the time. And that was something I probably wouldn't have thought to do on my own. But we were also going through this during COVID. So a lot of people, I think, were ordering from home because they didn't feel safe going to the store. But it did help me out getting groceries delivered that way. I did hire a home health aide to come in once it got difficult, too hard for me to give him a shower by myself. He only really wanted me to do it, and I wanted to be the one to do it. And I had a home health company that I knew the people who owned it, and they were nice and not too expensive. And it's a husband-wife team, and the husband came over and was just wonderful with my husband. It made him feel not embarrassed or anything for needing this help. And he finally would help me get Greg in the shower so that I could have him sit on the shower chair and do all the bathing and everything. And then when it was time to get out, he'd come back in and would help me, stand him up, get him dried, and get him in the wheelchair so we can go in the other room, and then I'd be able to get him dressed. But at one point it got to be a little dangerous. I got him in the shower and couldn't get him out. And we were here alone. He was wet, naked, and he had to step over a threshold. We were both standing up, hanging onto the rail, and he just couldn't process how to make his foot step over that rail, that lip on the floor to get out of the shower. So we were there 10 minutes, and I almost didn't know what to do. I thought, how are we going to get out here? I can't move. He's going to fall. And finally, obviously, got out, but I thought, okay, I'm going to have help when I do this now. We can't risk it. So if you are able to get somebody like that, even just for the bathing part, it's help. It is really nice. I wanted to do most everything on myself, and so it was kind of hard for me to not just financially pay for it, but also just to admit that I needed the help. But it turned out to be an issue of safety, and I'm glad that I did it. It was better. My husband didn't like it at first, but he got used to it, and he was okay with it. As my husband's disease progressed, he had a hard time speaking. And so one of the things I did was we bought a box of little alphabet letters. It had magnets on the back. Our kids used to play with them when they were little, put them on the refrigerator, and I got a cookie sheet, and I put the cookie sheet on his lap, put all the letters there on alphabetical order so that he can try and spell out words to us. So when he was struggling, he couldn't write for some reason, but he knew how to spell, and he knew what he wanted to say, and his cognitive was there most of to the end, but he was able to spell out some words to help us know what he was trying to say. And that was something that really did help us out for a few weeks there. I was always trying to search for anything that would help. I'd stay up till midnight, 1 after he'd gone to bed, just reading anything I could find, because I knew personally of some people that have had GBM who are surviving. And every situation's different, and I felt like something could help him. I don't know what it would be, but I'm going to try to find it. And if there's a chance he's going to beat it, we need to keep looking for it, whatever it is. And so I just couldn't give up hope, and I don't think anyone should. And here are some of the things that I looked into in case you're interested in looking for some alternatives. Joe Tippin's protocol is pretty popular. There's actually thousands of people on. They have a Facebook page, or you can read about it. My Cancer Story Rocks is his web page, and he did not have glioblastoma, but he had another form of cancer, and he's probably 5 or 7 years, I don't know, something like that, cancer-free. But a lot of people that follow him have been using his protocol, and it uses a dewormer, a canine dewormer. And actually, the Mayo Clinic and Duke and another university, they are now doing clinical trials on it because they've seen quite a bit of success with this. So there's something to look into. It's cheap because he pairs it with curcumin and vitamin E and a CBD oil. And so they're kind of like natural products, things that you can get. And so that's one thing to look into. Joe Tippins is his name. Another, I get the emails from a guy who has a web page called Chris Beat Cancer. You could look him up. And then there's a local guy here in my city, Indianapolis, named Adam Hayden, Hayden. He is a GBM survivor. He's 5 years out now. He's a dad of, I think, 3 cute little boys, and they're active family, and he does go and do talks, talking about how he's surviving and what he's doing. And so there are some people that are having some success stories, and I found them encouraging. I needed to read things like that to give me some ideas. I'm trying to find something. I do think the Optune helped fight it for a while. And another thing that I decided to do, my husband was on board. He wanted to do this too. My insurance company hooked us up with an oncology department, and they mailed this to me, and it was a cookbook, Cancer Fighting Kitchen. And I pretty much picked all of our meals out of it. And I do think it helped slow things down, the progression. That's just my belief. But they also have ideas of things that you can are good to make for treatment days, or days where they don't feel very hungry, like nourishing soups that when their stomach's upset, or foods that you need that you could eat prior to treatment to help build up some nutrition, different things like that in that book. So I loved it. It's good recipes too, and so maybe that'll help you. A lot of people used papaya leaf extract when their platelets got low, and that was something that I did have on hand. But he was prone to brain bleeding, and so we had to be careful with. I was using a lot of ginger and turmeric, and I didn't know at the time that those can thin your blood and increase the risk of bleeding, so I had to stop using those. And he was actually glad I had to stop using those because he was tired of eating food that tasted like ginger and turmeric all the time. But he was willing to try whatever we could do to help him feel better too, and to slow the progression down. So that's our life. That's kind of what we went through. I'm sorry you even have reason to watch a video like this, and I just pray everything works out for whatever you're going through. And I hope some of my ideas of what happened to us, hopefully it'll help somebody.